So this is the summary of the lecture of those notes or something. And of course, you'll note that even reading this is already to go against the grain of what it is that we were trying to talk about, but just so you know. So we began, with a couple of etymologies. The etymology of lecture, which goes back to the Latin term lectare, to read, a reading, but lectare is also the root of the word elect, as in the elect, the chosen. And so we were concerned with what it means to give, what does it mean for the chosen to give a reading? There's another use of the word lecture that's always in the back of my mind. And our dear friend David Kazanjian is here, who's a great scholar and lyric critic and historian. So I'm about to say something that I'm almost sure is wrong, so please correct me. I believe it's from the second version of Frederick Douglass's autobiography, which is My Bondage and My Freedom. There's a moment where, he continually, in those 3 volumes, sort of elaborates further on these basic, fundamental, essentially sort of primal scenes of his knowledge of his own enslavement. But there's a sort of pre-knowledge moment of his childhood that he latches onto, especially in the second volume. And he's talking about one of the other enslaved women was sort of in charge of the children and had been particularly harsh to him in a moment when he was very small. And his mother came in and he said, and she read that woman a lecture that she could not, So we could also talk about the reading of the lecture as a kind of protection, as an expression of care. That's why we're not trying to denigrate or disavow the lecturer, precisely insofar as that impulse to speak, to say, just like what Manolo was just saying, it emerges not just out of love, but out of the very specific kind of protective love, given the ubiquity and the intensity of the war against subsistence. Somebody has to say something, Anyway, okay. But there's this problem once the one who feels called to say something starts to feel maybe sometimes that they have been, as it were, elected to say something. That's part of what we want to talk about tonight under the rubric of betrayal. And we'll have much more to say about that. The reading of the protector, the one to whom is given the gift of spirit, supposedly to redistribute it. Can we speak of a distinction between the called and the chosen, which corresponds not so much to the distinction between the many and the few, as in many are called but few are chosen, but maybe between all and one, that all are called on, and an individuation is the sort of the mindset of the one who feels that they have been elected to speak, as if in some kind of substitutive relation to